Sissy, excuse me. Kan ek net vir jou vra, wil jy nie vir jou net hier buite kan sê net jy moet dit hoop hier. Ek gaan 'n Zoom sessie hê, kan hulle kan nie so spreek. Of kan ek jou e-pos sien asseblief? Ja. Ja.
Hi Wouter, hoop dit gaan goed met jou. Wouter, ek net gou by jou hoor. Ons probeer nou aansoek doen vir die Vitality iPad goedjies dat ons
Hi Harry. Are you able to get on? Oh, okay. Okay. No problem. Okay, ja, Harry, promote to panelist. Hallo Karina, hoe gaan dit? Jy gaan nou nie kan terugpraat nie, maar welkom. Larry? Hey my friend, where's that? Liverpool, well done.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we need your video. And then, so...
It's not letting me use video. You closed off my video. Don't you want to see me?
No, I do actually want to see you. Harry, let me say more. Shit, okay, how do I do that? Let me make a co-host. Why is your video off? Oh, there. Let me try and see if I can't. Okay, Harry, for whatever reason, I cannot. No, there you are. Okay, you should have checked yourself. Okay, let me close that. Okay, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you as well. Oh, those are your fancy offices. I actually haven't been there.
Yeah, no, this is actually just a mock-up, but it does look fancy, eh? Harry, so we've got a couple of minutes. I've just put it live, so the guys will join as we come along. So on the Zoom is all our branch directors. So they've got the branches countrywide. I think you've met most of them. You would have met either you know them, but they definitely know you. And then I'm also just broadcasting it live on our internal YouTube channel. Just want to see, it is recording. You find that we recorded, eh?
Yeah. Don't worry, I won't say anything too bad.
Okay, yeah, please not. But you're welcome. I mean, I know that you won't do that. So I'll wait and just give the guys on the Zoom time to get on, and then obviously the YouTube is live already. It's a closed loop, so it's in a secure environment. So it's not. I'm not broadcasting you on Facebook yet.
Okay, no, look.
I don't know what your Facebook following is like, but we might just improve it. Oh, I see Dylan is also on. Is Dylan going to present as well?
Yes, so I'm going to do the first 35 minutes or so, and Dylan will do the next 20 odd minutes, 25 minutes.
Okay. Dylan, I've just made you a panelist, so if you can just, I'll make you a co-host as well. And then you'll be able to unmute yourself and you will.
Perfect. Thank you, Bota.
Okay, there's Dylan. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to give a. Okay, I see you all.
Hello, Dylan.
Afternoon, everyone. Hi, afternoon, Harry.
So it'll be the usual, Dylan. I'll kick off for like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and you take 20 minutes, and we'll take some questions. We won't go much longer, but an hour's enough.
No, yeah. So Dylan, I just explained to Harry. I don't think we've had the privilege to meet. I don't think we've met.
No,
yet.
we didn't. We didn't, Bota.
Yeah, nice to meet you. So we've got a couple of our branch directors on already. They'll be on the Zoom call, and then I'm doing a live broadcast to YouTube. And then what we're doing is I'm recording this session, and we'll do a newsletter. Harry, I'll just check the facts with you, but we'll do a nice newsletter with a video that we'll share with all our advisors.
Perfect.
So we did that one. We did a one last week with Hilton on the bank, and I must say that went down quite well. We opened that up to clients, and I think we had brokers and clients close to 350 people on the call. That was quite nice.
Well, how many are we going to have here? I can see we've got 8.
Yeah, now this is on the Zoom, so we'll have on YouTube, we'll have the rest. I see there's a couple of them. I'll just wait. When I see all the branch directors on, then we'll get cracking. And we'll just cut the video, Harry, and then I'll copy you guys in on it when we send it out.
Perfect.
Okay, so Dylan, you'll be able to share. Okay, Harry, are you going to be first?
I'll kick off first, yes.
Okay, good stuff. I mean, we're doing this quite informal, which I know you're quite comfortable with, but so when we've got I'll just check if all the guys on Zoom is on, our branch directors, then we'll get going.
Yeah, keep it very informal. I mean, I'm fine. They can interrupt me with questions, all of that. Keep it very informal.
I'm going to ask them if there's any questions to put in the Q&A, so I'll relate it so that it doesn't disrupt your flow, but I know you don't mind. And then we'll take it from there. Okay, I'll tell you guys when we get cracking. Okay, so I see there's a couple of guys from Petersburg and Johan from Cape Town. So it's good to see them on board. Guys, we'll start just now. We're just giving a couple of 1 or 2 minutes for the rest of the branch directors to get on, and then we'll get going. So most of you have obviously met Harry. He'll introduce himself again shortly. And Dylan, you'll also just give yourself a bit of an introduction for those that haven't met you yet. Okay, Harry, I'm going to give it another minute, and then
Perfect.
You just can wait for the crowd, and then we can get cracking.
So when you're sitting, are you at home in your lounge? What is that?
I am actually, yes. I've got a solar installation here, so I said to them, guys, I need electricity because I've got to have Wi-Fi at 10:02. So we having fun. Okay, I think there's 1 or 2 guys that's still going to get on, Harry, but I think we can get cracking. So from my perspective, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for, I mean, it's always nice to listen to you. Give us your legal insights. I can't remember, when did you start the Discovery? I think we started, because I mean, I started when life began, but you were there kind of
I
at the
was
same
about 6 months later. I was like May 2001.
Yeah, I can't remember. Did you have any hair then? I don't think so. So it's
I did.
Oh, you did, but
I'd like Discovery took it all off me.
I've got grey, and Johan is really grey. He looks like a grandfather. And you obviously lost your hair. Dylan, I don't know if you had any hair when you started at Discovery. discovery.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Harry, Dylan, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate obviously just taking us through the discovery executive solution. I'm looking forward to that, and always nice to listen to you. So Harry, over to you. Thanks.
Great. Well, thanks, Vita, and thanks to all the people at too. We've been trying to get this together for about 2 months now, so I'm glad we finally got it together. And it's really great to talk to too, and to have some feedback and some interaction. I must just say, Vita said, can we keep it informal? People, please keep it very informal. Yesterday, just out of interest, I was talking at this International Trust and Tax Conference. So I was based here. The conference was being hosted on a platform in London. The video guy doing the RT was sitting in Malaysia. And one of my speakers was talking out of Geneva. And the RT guy in Malaysia was a very prim and proper guy. And he kept shouting at me because I wasn't center of the screen. He didn't like the lighting in my cottage. He didn't like the fact that he could see a Springbok jersey on the back wall. So I'm very happy not to be in an environment like that. I much prefer talking to you guys where we're more relaxed and can chat and enjoy each other's company, don't make it formal. So we only want to go about an hour, so I don't want to waste too much time on the intro. I want to take you through the legal and tax around DEP, our estate preserver product, and then Delon will take you through some of the, I would always say, the more important stuff, the actual product application, how you sell the product, how the systems work, how the application form works. So lucky we're dealing with you guys. I mean, you've been dealing with Capital Legacy for a while, so you know the basic workings of the product. As you all know, the product is an indemnity product, so it will cover when the client dies. It covers their executor's fees, their trustee fees on a testamentary trust, and the conveyancing fees in an estate. The conveyancing fees, of course, depend on the size of the estate covered. If it's a 10 million rand estate or more, then it covers 2 properties, the conveyancing fees on 2 properties in an estate. So it's very comprehensive in that sense. On the trust, it must be a testamentary trust created in the will, which comes into being on the client's death. So that's fine, and that's all pretty evident and clear. The executor, now this is the important point, people. The product only covers a payment to our preferred provider. So at the moment, our preferred provider is Absa Trust. They do all our estates and all our winding up and all our trusts for us. So this product will pay the conveyancing fees, the trustee fees, and the executor's fees as long as Absa Trust is the preferred provider. They must be the executor in the will. They should preferably draft the will because then they know the format that it needs. They will then be the executor, and they will be the trustee on a testamentary trust, and they will arrange the conveyancing. As long as that's the case, then that's a fully funded estate, and we will pay all those fees to Absa. Now, just a couple of points. Look, we are pretty new. We've only gone live a few months ago. But I know with Capital Legacy, and I'm not knocking them at all, I'm just giving you some factual background that we get from Absa. There have been quite a few court cases where clients have died and the Capital Legacy weren't the executor, and then there's issues with the product. So it's important that the client understands that the product has to work with Absa Trust being the executor. It should be in your record of advice, and the client must be made to understand that. So if a client dies with a estate preserver product and no will, then of course the product doesn't pay out, and they'll just get a 50% refund of premiums. If the client dies with a will that appoints another executor, same thing, they'll just get a 50% refund of premiums, less any paybacks. So it's important that they must have a will drafted by Absa, and if they're going to change their will, again, it should be done by Absa so they don't have an issue with the product not paying out. And then, of course, the other point is, if the will is lost, and I can tell you, I mean, I love this. Every month I check the court cases that come out of our courts, and every month there are court cases on wills. It's just incomprehensible that there's so many will cases. So the most recent one, this chap was a very old fellow. He's in a hospital. I mean, he's really doddering and about to drop off. And he tells his daughter he needs his will changed. So she goes and writes it out by hand. And then there's another will as well, and no one's sure which is the last will, because she does 2 wills for him. One is written by hand. And now we have to go to court and get a court order to say which is the last will. and that the handwritten will is actually valid, even though in terms of the Wills Act there's a problem with it. So it's important that clients understand this. Their will must be readily able to be found, and they must be clear which is the last will. And of course, we got a storage facility, a special benefit storage facility with ABSA, so the will gets stored and therefore doesn't get lost when the client dies and everyone can find it. There is a small fee for that. It's 115 Rand a year, but that gets refunded after 5 years through the payback mechanism. And I can tell you off the record, I know you're recording me, Wouter, but this is still off the record, that ABSA have said if the client moans, if the client says, I'm not paying this 115 Rand a year, I can get it for free somewhere else, ABSA will make a plan for the client and do it for free. So I don't get hung up on the storage fees. But storage is very useful because the will is stored, the client dies, nothing gets lost, everyone can find the will, and we don't have any issues. So just remember, if it's not ABSA's executor, if the will is lost or invalid, or there's another executor, then the product can't pay out fully. It can only give you a small refund of the premiums. Now, I always get asked this question, can the client appoint a co-executor? Yes. ABSA don't mind if you want to have your own co-executor, but only ABSA are going to be able to charge fees in their state. So the co-executor is there, and I get this. The husband says, I want my wife to be a co-executor so she can have a say in the winding up of the estate. She knows what's going on. ABSA don't just ignore her. Fine, you can make her a co-executor. But the product only pays to ABSA Trust, and ABSA have to collect the fees. The co-executor would have to waive their right to fees. So you can appoint a co-executor simply for the right to be involved, but they don't get any fees. So, I mean, that's the first basic points about estate preserver, as long as you and the client understand that. So once you get that through, I mean, it's a really nice end-to-end service. ABSA Trust will draft the will for free. They will be the executor. When the client dies, they will wind up, and then the estate preserver will pay them the full fees. So for the client, it's a fully funded end-to-end service. I'm going to just tell you, don't underestimate the benefit, and I'm not knocking anyone else at all, but don't underestimate the benefit of having an ABSA Trust to wind up the client's will. I don't know if you read the news, but there's been two major issues in South Africa at the moment. One is the government printer broke down. I don't know how it works. I've never been inside the government printer's office, thank goodness. Even in my articles, they never sent me there. But the government printer has to print all official documents, or else they don't get done. The government printer broke down for about 3 months. Now that meant there was no adverts that could be published in the government gazette, no official publications, and estates couldn't get officially notified, so nothing happened for 3 months. No estates could get wound up. So that's a serious problem. So that's a big delay with the estates already. And the second problem is, I mean, you probably would have read about it, but you know, there's a small matter of a pandemic in South Africa, and the master's offices, which, let me be diplomatic, were never that quick before COVID, have now slowed down quite considerably with COVID. And again, it's, to be fair to the master's office, it's not their fault. They can't have an office that's full anymore. They can't have a full staff complement. They can't have, you know, people coming en masse to their offices. So COVID has slowed things down even more. So ABSA have told us, even with them doing it, and they get into the offices every week, there's been a delay of a good 3 months at least in winding up estates, and in some cases 6 months. So don't underestimate the benefit of having a professional trust company do it. They are able to get into the master. They can get documents quickly. I can tell you now, I've got a lot of people personally who keep phoning me. They know, I've told everyone I know, we've launched wills and trust services at Discovery, and people have had family members die. They can't get letters of executorship. I've had an individual who's been waiting 6 months just to get that letter. You know, it's just a nightmare. So that benefit of having ABSA Trust as the trust company winding up is a big benefit for your clients. It'll just happen quicker. If there's no letter from the master, ABSA make sure they get the letter, I can tell you. Don't underestimate that. All right, any questions on that firstly, before I go to the next bit, the legal and tax? Anyone want to ask anything?
Gary, I'll let the guys ask in the Q&A. So, and I'll generate some of the questions. I've got one or two, but if we deal with them at the end, then we'll club them all together.
Okay, perfect. All right, so next issue, and this is something that's quite important, is the estate preserver product subject to estate duty? So I can tell you some of the other, I won't name anyone, but some of the other companies that sell this kind of product are saying that they don't think it's estate dutiable. I can tell you for a fact, it definitely is estate dutiable. There's no doubt that it's estate dutiable. I mean, even though it's an indemnity product, it covers a life. That individual is going to die. That product is going to pay out because that individual has died, and that makes it an asset in the estate. There's no doubt. I've got an opinion from Dr. Emil Brinker, who's one of the few tax doctors around who I always use, and he's confirmed it, that estate preserver will be estate dutiable. But the but is that it's quite a tricky benefit to actually value, because you're only going to pay estate duty on the value it pays out. Okay, so obviously the executor's fees are very easy to work out. There's no problem there. The conveyancing fees will be easy to work out. The trustee fees are a little bit trickier, because remember, we will pay for a testamentary trust the trustee fees for up to 10 years, and we'll pay for up to 4 trusts. I'll come back to that. So you might need to get a valuation from our actuaries about how to value this. But that's just a valuation question. There's no doubt it is estate dutiable. But on the other side of the fence, there's also no doubt, and I've got an opinion as well from this doctor on the same point, that estate preserver would then become deductible in the estate. Because X dies, let's assume estate preserver pays out 350,000 Rand in fees to ABSA. The 350,000 is a deemed asset in the estate, but the 350 which pays out to ABSA is a deduction in the estate as part of the cost of winding up. The only grey area I had was, will SARS give that deduction, seeing as it doesn't come from the estate directly, it comes from a policy? And the doctor said it will, because that policy is a deemed asset and the assets have been included in the estate, SARS will grant a deduction, and then therefore that means the estate preserver is tax neutral. You don't have to worry about any actual tax. It comes in as a deemed asset, it goes out as at the bottom as a deduction, tax neutral. If any of your advisors are winding up estates, have got an estate preserver, and they find SARS disallowing it, because sometimes the local officers don't always follow the head office, then of course let us know and we'll fight it for you. But there's no doubt in law, estate preserver is deductible, even though it's estate dutiable. Okay, so again, just to take you through quickly, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, just to show you your standard, and this is why we're so keen on estate preserver. Because, I mean, Wouter will know this as well as I do, and I know he's a big supporter of this, that the whole beauty of doing a will and doing an estate preserver product, which is obviously not huge premium, is it opens up all the doors for you. Doing a will and doing an estate preserver to cover the client is your best door opener you're ever going to have. So let's quickly take you through this scenario. Mr. and Mrs. A married out of community property. He owns the following assets: normal middle class South African, a home for 1.9 million, a holiday home for 1.1, 2 million shared a CC, a loan account, life insurance on the life of to cover his bond, unit trust and shares. He leaves the home to his wife, the balance to his 2 kids at 12 and 10, and let's just quickly go through the costs and the business issues. So estate duty is very simple. Everything is estate dutiable. That's an 11 million Rand estate duty, less 1.9 million 4Q to the spouse is 9.1, less a 3.5 million abatement, 5.6 million, 1.2 million estate duty due. So that's just the estate duty. And of course, there you would be looking to sell a policy already to cover that liquidity need for estate duty. Now, let me tell you, one of the benefits we've negotiated with ABSA is if you have a discovery life policy, which pays into the estate to cover estate duty for the client, or any liquidity need for the client, a bond as well, they won't charge executors fees on that policy. Because even though in law they could, because the policy is paying into the estate, they won't. That's ideal. They won't charge exec fees on a discovery policy, which means you're saving the client 4% on over R1 million policy. That's about 40-odd thousand Rand. So again, it's a nice extra benefit to market to your client. So the executor's fees here, if we look at the assets, it would be on everything except for, obviously, in fact, it would be on everything. It would be on the full 11 million, at 4.02%, 442,000 execs fees. And had that life policy been a discovery policy, we could have taken out the 2 million worth of execs fees because ABSA wouldn't have charged it. So that's again another benefit of using a discovery policy, and the client would need 442,000 Rand worth of liquidity to pay the execs fees, and his state preserver would cover that in full. Transfer costs, so he would need 42,000 Rand conveyancing fees. Remember, there's no transfer duty on any property going out of the estate, but you do need to cover your conveyancing fees of 42,000 Rand, which would be covered by DEP. And also it would pay general liquidity benefits. Delon will talk to you about that just now. There's a liquidity benefit which pays out within 48 hours, and that would cover funeral and other needs. So there would also be CGT here, because remember, all your capital assets would trigger CGT, less some exemptions on the primary residence, of course, but the rest would trigger CGT, and you'd be looking at a 90,000 odd CGT need, which would have to be covered. So you're going to see everything in his estate. You've got estate duty, execs fees, transfer fees, winding up costs, CGTs. You've got a need of about 1.8 million on a very simple middle class estate. And his execs fees are recovered in full, his conveyancing fees, DEP would pay out a liquidity benefit, and it would pay out 8,000 as a contribution protector. So your DEP here would take care of him very neatly. Now here's the biggest issue, people, and this to me is something don't ever be afraid to push. We've got two minor kids here. Now these minor kids need to be looked after. He's leaving assets to minor kids. We need to protect them. So because of his state preserver, he could now create two separate trusts in his will, and the estate preserver would cover the trustee fees on those two trusts for 10 years. In 10 years' time, the kids would both be majors, and then they could decide if they still want the trust or not. They could take the assets out. I think this is, to me, the biggest benefit of estate preserver. Clients of yours have got minor kids. They have now an opportunity to look after their minor kids properly in a fully funded structure through estate preserver. I mean, Delon will laugh, but he now, all my team know this. My biggest bugbear is every week I have a case, I get someone from claims emailing me, life assured's died with a life policy, and they've got a 10-year-old daughter who's the beneficiary of this policy. What do we do? So remember, a life policy is different to an estate. An estate, you can't physically pay cash to a minor. The Administration of Estates Act stops that. But a life policy doesn't fall under that act. It's not an asset in the estate. I mean, it is a deemed asset for estate duty, but it's not a real asset. And that means we could theoretically pay the proceeds of a life policy to the minor kid if we so wanted to. We could theoretically do that. So it's a serious problem because our claims managers don't want to do that. They don't want to pay. We had a case a few weeks ago, 2.5 million Rand was being left to a 10-year-old kid. And then they don't know what to do. Do they pay the kid? Do they pay the guardian? Do they pay the guardian's fund in Pretoria? And it's a tricky issue for them. And there's no magic solution. So again, your job is to convince your clients that they've got minor kids. They must create trusts in their estate, in their will. If it's two kids, they can have two separate trusts. Those trust fees, the trustee fees, will be fully funded by a state preserver apart from the setup costs. And it just is such a nice opportunity for you to allow your advisors to talk to the clients about the real issues. I mean, they're selling peace of mind at the end of the day. They're saying to the client, when you die, things will be taken care of for you. It's wound up quickly, things get sorted, there's enough money to wind up, and your minor kids are looked after. And that's really peace of mind. It's what your clients want. It's what you want to sell to your clients. So those testamentary trustee fees are a very powerful benefit. As I say, it works up to 4 trusts in the estate for a period of up to 10 years. Now, why do we only cover it for 10 years? 2 reasons there. Number one, obviously the product has to be funded and it has to be worked out by actuaries. We've kept our product premiums cheap, but that's because it's a 10-year term. So the trustee fees are only for 10 years. If we made it open-ended, it would have to become a lot more expensive and it would be very difficult to price. But then the actuaries have to sit with all these variables. It could be up to 4 trusts. They don't know what the asset values are, and they don't know how long the trusts are going to run. That's why they fix it at 10 years so they can price it accurately. But again, a major benefit. So people, I mean, that's one of the points around why I want you to actually do these estate plans. They're simple generally, but it creates so many business opportunities. Not just a will, not just estate preserver. It creates a policy for estate duty. Often you're going to have shares in a estate, and that means you've got an opportunity for a buy and sell. As I say, estates and buy and sell business assurance go together. They're the two family members, because when you're doing a will and you find shares, you're almost always going to want to buy and sell for the clients. And that's all the opportunities that jump out at you. So estate preserver is a very good door opener to get you all this other business, apart from the trust and the kids and the minors. And what I always say, we're going to come to it now, is you must be open with your clients, and you must say to them, I want to know what you're doing for your minor kids. Now, here's another nice story. I always push the minor issue because you're selling peace of mind. Here's a kid, and it got to the press, where his father died, left money for the kid in their estate. The money went to the Guardian's Fund. The kid's 15 and he needs money now out of the Guardian's Fund, but he can't get the money out because his natural and legal guardian is not filling in the papers correctly to get the money out of the Guardian's Fund. And again, that's money that should never have gone to the Guardian's Fund, because his late dad should have had a trust in the will to look after the kid. And that's your biggest plus again. You're selling peace of mind for the minor kids. Something else, I mean, Wouter will like this. I know Wouter is a tech-savvy individual who loves his tech. But I cannot tell you the amount of cases we are now getting on digital stuff. I mean, digital is huge. It's become bigger with COVID, as we all know, but it's huge. I mean, look at this mad case where this German programmer did some work in the US in 2011. He was paid about $2,500 as a fee in Bitcoin then. He opened up a Bitcoin account. It was only $2,500, and he didn't even know what Bitcoin was in 2011. He's now forgotten about it, lost his password. It's now come out that $2,500 he got paid is worth 3.5 billion rand, but he doesn't know what his password was. And I think he's got 2 chances left. Money is gone. Now, the issue is, and I get a lot of queries on this, how do clients handle digital in their wills, in their estates? And that's again why it's so important to have a professional person drafting the will who can advise them properly how to handle this. I mean, ABSA, for example, are creating a secure digital vault where the passwords can be stored, things like that. I had a funny client 2 months ago now. He's got a big Bitcoin investment. He wants to leave that to his brother and sister when he dies. So he's put it in the will that his Bitcoin goes to the brother and sister. He said to me, how do I get the password to them? So I said, well, put it in an envelope and let them keep it until you die. He said, no, I don't really trust them. They might open the envelope now. So I said, give it to ABSA. He said, I don't trust ABSA. It wasn't so easy to give him the answer. Eventually I said to him, you know what? Go to a tattoo artist, tattoo it on the back of your arm, and then when you die and they're wheeling you down to bury you, they can look underneath your arm and check the password. Okay, he said to me, what about my mistress? She might see the password and then I'll lose it to her. All right, keep your t-shirt on. But I mean, those are things to think about. It's not so straightforward doing digital planning. You've got to have a professional who knows how to assist you in this. But again, you must think about digital vaults, you must think about passwords. I mean, the other issue we have a lot of is what I call exotic assets. Things like valuable wine and champagne collections. I mean, I knew a chap who bought a bottle of champagne at an auction that came from Napoleon. You know, you've got things like that. You've got gold coins, you've got stamp collections still, obviously artwork. Those things need to be looked after when the client dies. And a trust company like ABSA have got a special department to manage exotic assets. So you can leave those assets to a trust. At least you know your artwork will be looked after by ABSA, not by your kid who's going to put it in the kitchen and spill tomato sauce on it. You know, things like that. I've had a client before who had a SciCAD collection. So again, when he died, he left the SciCADs to a trust. In fact, he didn't wait till he died. He wanted to move it in the trust now because if he dies, he wants the trustees to water those flowers. If he leaves it to his kids, they won't water them, the flowers will die, and his zakat collection is gone. So, I mean, these are all nice things that we can use professionals for. So, just a couple of other points before I look at the actual product, and then I'll take questions. You know, really important, when you do a client's will, and this is why I keep telling our advisors, go and get the will done with the ABSA person. I mean, ABSA will go and do the will, but they want the advisor there with them. And that's good for the advisor, because the advisor should be there, because the question you should always ask, whenever anyone asks me for any advice on a will, most is my family, I always say to them, I'm not going to touch your will until I see all your policies and all their beneficiaries. Because I can't give you advice on a will if I don't know what policies you've got and where they're going. Now, again, that's brilliant for your advisors, because they get to know exactly what the policies are and who the beneficiaries are. And then they can do all the planning. And I can tell you, I can't tell you how many problems we have with life policies and beneficiaries, just as an example. I have cases where the guy dies and his ex-business partner is still the beneficiary. Endless trouble with that. I have cases where the guy dies and his ex-wife is a beneficiary, or the deceased spouse has still been left on as a beneficiary. And then my favorite, where the guy dies and for some reason the estate is the beneficiary because there was a problem with the systems at the time and no one checked and there was the wrong beneficiary loaded. You know, things like that. And that's where you can come in as well. You can check the client's policies, check who the beneficiaries are, and then you can fix up the mess. And I can promise you there's always a mess, and it just brings you so much more business. It allows you to discuss all about disability and people with disabilities. Again, we've got so many cases now with clients who've got family who are got dementia, who are severely disabled. Again, you need a will, you need a trust set up to look after them. So many opportunities there. Debt, you can always look at debt with a will. There's always divorces. There's always offshore stuff. I mean, a will, and this is something, Vota, I wanted to actually talk to you about as well. With wills and trusts, our new business that we've set up, we've got now partnerships with law firms across the world, and we can help clients do wills overseas. Big opportunity there. So I've had a lot of it already, clients needing wills in the UK, in Germany, Belgium, the US. We will refer clients on. Of course, the will overseas has to be paid for. That's not free, and the law firm will charge direct, and we don't make any money out of it. But we can help your clients get wills drafted overseas if they need it. As well, we got another very nice service. If you've got high net worth clients, you know, really the big boys, the company directors, who want a bespoke service, we've got a deal with Edward Nathan Attorneys, ENS, the biggest law firm in South Africa, where if we send clients to them, our clients, ENS will do their wills for them, do their structures at a 25% discount on the fees. I can tell you it's still not cheap. ENS are not a cheap law firm, but there's a 25% discount for the client. And I've taken a few directors of listed companies there. They get an excellent service and they get a discount on fees. So it's a really good opportunity. It's a really good extra couple of arrows in your quiver for you to use. Now, just the last point, people, and Delon, I'll introduce you to Delon just now. We are in the process of setting up a specialist sales team. And that sales team would do for you what you've been used to, where they will see your clients for you, do the will and sell their estate preserver. And then there'll be a system of commission sharing. But at the moment, ABSA will help you. So ABSA will draft the will. ABSA will assist you in drafting the will as well. If you need help, they've got a full team, and you've met your ABSA fiduciary person, Darren in Pretoria. Very good. But the ABSA consultant won't go see the client without you. That is a fundamental need, a fundamental part of it. People, please, you need to understand that. And why do we use ABSA? Two simple reasons. Number one, we've had a test case relationship with them for 5 years, which has gone very well. Number two, they've got a countrywide presence, and we need that. We need them to be able to do wills all over the country, which is very important to us. So let's take a few questions before I just take you through some of other product issues.
Okay, Harry, I saw, can you hear me?
Yes.
One of the guys asked with the court cases that you referred to around capital legacy, whether you would be able to share that with us, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, I'll chat to ABSA. I mean, Wouter, again, to be fair to capital legacy, I'm not trying to knock them or besmirch them. I'm just trying to say it's very important that your clients understand how the product works, else there'll be issues. And we are neurotic about that. We are ensuring and we are enforcing a lot of strictness in the record of advice so the clients understand it. We don't want clients, because unfair client, if they don't realize they change in 5 years' time, they've still got the product, won't cover them.
Yeah, because I mean, I think in a similar vein, there's been a number of court cases against ABSA as well on some of these issues.
Yeah, I mean, ABSA don't sell an estate preserver type product, so they might have been sued on something else, but not on this.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, obviously, you and I had a chat, you know, that we've been involved in the estate environment in terms of specific wills for our clients for a long, long time. I mean, I hugged you, I think, when I was still at Discovery, to say when are we going to do wills, and then wills wasn't that important. But it became important now, obviously.
It's taken me 10 years of fighting, right? 10 years of tears.
So I'm glad you're with us right now. So we've got a couple of thousand clients that we've got wills. Well, many thousands. Obviously, I mean, you know my standpoint from an ABSA perspective. I think there are views. There are clients that don't want to use ABSA. I mean, they use their own banks or the likes, or they like to use their advisors and that environment. The one aspect that we spoke about, currently ABSA is your preferred provider, given the fact that obviously we have a vast number of advisors around the country. You and I will have maybe take this offline, but for us to become a preferred provider as well in that environment.
Yeah, we'll have to go offline, and I have to bring in the big boys there. I can't make even think about making a call like that. I'd have to have.
You haven't seen me in a while, so I'm a big boy now. I'm losing weight, but I'm getting there. So, I don't know if
bigger boys than me and you will have to make calls on that, but we'll get about it.
Yeah, there's no other obvious questions. I think, I mean, the main concern that I've seen from people is the fact that obviously the Discovery, or rather ABSA, becomes the executor, and I think it's a personal choice, most probably. For the same token, there's lots of our clients that do use ABSA and they love them, enjoy them, and this product will.
Yeah. Wouter, let me just say a few points. I mean, I appreciate you bringing up your concern, and it's good. But a couple of points. Number one, the client doesn't have to bank with ABSA at all. This is a trust company, so it's totally separate. So they can bank with whoever they want. Number two, we're dealing with a very specialist part of ABSA. It's a special team that have been dedicated to us. So, you know, they only work for Discovery, most of them. In the Platteland areas, it's different. But in the big cities, in the Joburgs and the Durbans and the Cape Towns and the Pretorias, they're basically working for Discovery. So, you know, you don't have to phone the ABSA bank branch to get a call through to your fiduciary person. It's a direct person for you. And if anything goes wrong, Wouter, I mean, I call the head of ABSA Trust, because this is a deal we've signed at board level. So anything goes wrong, I'll phone the head of ABSA Trust and he gets it sorted out very quickly, I can tell you. So, you know, it's not like you're dealing with an bank branch manager, which will take you 6 months to talk to. This is quick. We've got a full process in place. I like to call it a private banking service, because it's really a good team at ABSA. They're all LLBs. They've all got many years of qualifications, a lot of experience. I think you've met Darren, your Pretoria person. He's very good. He's got an LLB, a verstaan die taal. I mean, he's really a very good consultant for you to have. And I mean, I'm very happy with their service. I'll tell you some interesting cases I've had. We had one case in December where client died, broker referred the estate to ABSA. ABSA went in to wind up, and the broker phoned me absolutely furious because there was a short-term policy sold through another broker. And of course, a key part of our deal is that if you refer a client to ABSA to draft, you get a branch code, or you get a broker code number, and all business comes straight back to you. That doesn't go to anyone else. And so I phoned the head of ABSA Trust. He investigated within an hour, and it came out the client had died. He had no short-term insurance on any of his assets. So when ABSA came in to wind up their estate, there had to be a short-term policy. The heirs didn't know the broker, so they got their own broker in. And that was just short and sweet. So ABSA will not refer the business to anyone else. It comes back to you. You're the broker, code on record. Your business is secure. So I just want to take another 5 minutes and just run you through some elements of the product, and then I'm going to hand over to Delon. Really, it's such a simple product, I can even do the product talk. I don't even need to have an actuary to do it. So really how the product works, I mean, you know the kind of product, it's really simple. Estate preserver covers you for executors fees, testamentary trustee fees, conveyancing fees, and how it works is you choose an estate size. So it's 2.5 million, 5, 10, 20, 40, and then depending on that size, you'll be covered for all the fees of winding up for assets of that size. And again, if you're 20 million estate, all the fees of a 20 million rand estate will be covered. It's really that simple. And you choose your indemnity fee benefit option up to 100 million, and then we cover the executor's fees, the trustee fees, the conveyancing fees on that. If, however, you short insure, so let's assume your assets are 14 million, but your actual assets when you die are 17 million, then of course we're only going to cover pro rata. The product does grow. The cover you have grows by CPI every year, but if you short insure yourself, and when you die, you are short covered for the actual asset size, we're only going to pay pro rata fees. Same for the trust. Okay, I don't need to go through all of that. Depending on the size of your estate covered will then determine your liquidity benefit. So for 20 million estate, a liquidity benefit of 40,000 Rand within 48 hours and a contribution protect of 8,000 Rand a month. Now, the last bit I want to just talk to you about before I hand over to Delon. For the last two bits is this Vitality integration, and that will kick back full storage fees and paybacks after 5 years. And then most importantly for me is the underwriting, and there is no medicals for up to 40 million Rand estate. So up to 40 million Rand estate, it's just medical questions. It's only when you go to the 60 million plus band that there'll be medical underwriting. On the smaller bands, no medical underwriting. And that's really it. It's a very simple, it's a very easy product to understand. It's a very easy product to sell. The premiums are incredibly cheap. Delon will take you through that. And really, we expect a lot of mass volume. It's an easy product to sell. It's an easy need to cover. It's a cheap premium. You can really do a lot of mass volume, which I'm sure you know. So that's it from our side. If there are any questions quickly that you want to fire through to me before I hand you over to Delon.
Doesn't look like there's any questions, Harry. You covered it like always quite exceptionally. Thanks.
Thank you. I hope it was simple enough and not too quick. Let me just say the last point that when I introduce Delon now, Delon is head of our wills and trust sales. So he's there to help you with any problems you've got on systems, on admin, on issues. And Delon from the end of June will be heading up a new sales team, which if you want, will go to your clients for you. We'll sell them estate preserver, do the will for them, and you'll get 80% of the comp. So we're busy finalizing that team. It's not in place yet. At the moment, you have to do it yourself. But from the end of June, early July, we'll have this team in place. All right, so that's enough from me. I'm going to close off now, and I'm going to hand you over to Delon just to take you through the system, how the systems work, how the app form works, how the processes work. Over to you, Delon.
Thanks, Harry, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So like Harry said, I'll be heading up the sales for the Discovery Estate Preserver plan. What I'm going to take you through today is just a few points in terms of important points in terms of the Discovery Estate Preserver, as well as a short insight into the process itself when you are creating a quote for a client on the SMAT system. So guys, not to wait any further, so just to continue, I know we are pressed for a bit of time. Okay, so like Harry explained, the first very important point is that We are using ABSA Trust in order to administer our estates and draft our wills for us. And in order for you to actually interact with ABSA, you would need to get a broker code and a side code in place. We have created codes for everyone within Discovery. It's only the IFAs that need to follow a different process. But you're more than welcome to give me a shout if you have not received your broker and side code as yet. I'll be more than happy then to forward that on to you. Just on the DEP, so the Discovery Estate Preserver, as well as the will applications, just note that we are only considering single applications at the moment. So only single wills and single policies are sold with the current wills. Guys, all marketing material, including scripts, comparisons, and ROAs and important numbers are available on SPAS as well as the Smart Advice. So we are currently loading more important information as well as marketing material going forward. But if you need any help with any of those documents, you're more than welcome to give me a shout as well. There's 2 applications available on SMART, guys, with the Discovery Estate Preserver. So you have one application, which is basically where a client has an existing will with ABSA, and all that you are doing is just adding the DEP policy to that will. That is a 27-page application. And then you have another application, which is where you are creating a new will for a client as well as selling that DEP policy with it as well. That is a 30-page application. Guys, just before you freak out and start complaining that it's a very long-winded application, I'm going to show you guys how simple it is to actually get that application completed if you're using the Smart Advice system. Okay. So I know Harry has touched on those points. Guys, please make sure that your clients are aware, and it is recorded in your record of advice, that the DEP, even though it's a standalone product, it has to be an ABSA nominated executive will, and there must be a valid and signed will at the time of the client's death. If it doesn't meet those requirements, then the client will get a 50% refund of the premiums. However, the contribution protector, liquidity benefit, as well as the estate planning benefit, if selected, will still pay out. Okay, so with the estate planning benefit, it cannot be selected without a spouse or partner's details. So make sure you add that in order for the system to allow you to quote on the estate planning benefit. So like I said, again, the DEP is a standalone benefit, and I put that into inverted commas. Like we said, again, it has to be an ABSA will that needs to go with that DEP policy. Guys, just remember that Discovery Estate Preserver does not cover assets outside South Africa. So just bear in mind, again, Harry, just to reiterate what Harry said, we are using ENS if the client needs that bespoke services outside South Africa. So we are using ENS, but the DEP does not cover the assets outside South Africa, and the DEP policy does not go with any will that ENS will go ahead and draft for the client as well. So another good benefit coming out of the Discovery Estate Preserver or with our relationship with ABSA is that the financial advisors do qualify, for sharing of executors fees. What I will do is that I will share with Wouter the breakdowns so that he then can forward to the rest of you. Like Harry, just to reiterate what Harry said, guys, no, only joint calls with the ABSA specialists. So the ABSA specialists are not taking leads currently. And that leads into my second point, my next point, which means that we are creating internal referral team to go live soon. So in the next couple of months, please look out for the communication. We'll have a very similar solution like Capital Legacy, for example. Guys, if you have any issues with the quoting on the DEP, please, you're more than welcome to give myself a shout, or alternatively, you can call the live desk, get a hold of the live desk at discovery.coza, or you can call the Smart Advice Help Desk on the 0860 number. I'm sure you guys are all aware of that number. So to go into my next presentation, guys, I'm going to take you into the SMAD system just to share with you how the process looks when you are actually creating a code with a client through SMAD. So I'm sure you all are familiar with SMAD. You've used it before. This is basically the opening page of SMAD, and this is what you would see if you do go ahead and open the application. If you click on clients and quotes, it'll take you into your next screen, which then filters the clients for you on the left-hand side. What you would then need to do is obviously then select the client that you are going to be using to do the quote on. And as you can see here, I'm going to choose Mr. Joe Green. And if you look at the top here, it gives you the option of selecting quotes. If you do select quotes, it'll give you 4 tabs here: life, invest, sorry, what is it? It's life, invest, health, and insure. So you would then click on life. And once you click on life, you'll then open up a further screen for you, which then in the middle, right next to the standalone global education protector, you would find the Discovery Estate Preserver Wills and Trust Services. So once again, guys, if you look at there's an arrow right next to the DP tab. And if you click on that down arrow, it then gives you the options of actually choosing the correct application that you would need to use for this client. So once again, if it is an existing will, then you would select the first application. If it's not, then you'll go with the second application where you're with the client is getting a new will drafted with the sale of the DEP as well. So for the purposes of this training, we are going to select if the client requires a new will as well as a DEP. If you do select it, it'll take you into the quoting screen. The very first question that it will ask you is that, does the client want to store his or her will with Discovery Wills and Trust? Sorry, just give it a second. Sven is a bit slow today. Okay, so as you can see here, it asks the question: I want to store my will with Discovery Wills and Trust Service preferred provider. Guys, bear in mind this is an optional benefit that comes with the product. So if the client doesn't want us to select this benefit, he doesn't have to. There is an extra fee for it, but like Harry quite correctly explained, that there are paybacks if the client does select this benefit. In my personal opinion, being in this industry for quite a few years now, remember the master does not deal with copies of the wills. He needs the originally signed will. So it's always best to have that will stored in a safe place. We don't want to be losing it when it's needed the most. So if you select yes, it'll then highlight the middle section for you, which then allows you to calculate the indemnity benefit asset cap that the client falls into. So if you click on calculate, excuse me, it'll take you into the asset cap calculation. What we're trying to achieve in this screen, guys, is basically putting the client into the right fee indemnity benefit asset cap. So if you look on the right-hand side, what we're looking for is just to calculate what the executable assets will be in the client's estate. So your first tab would be properties. So here, what we're looking for is a value of all the client's properties in his or her estate. So let's call it, for this training purposes, that Mr. Joe Green has a 5 million rand property. Guys, also bear in mind that you would also need to include any accrual claims into this property section as well. Okay. The cash, let's say that Mr. Green has R1 million cash. Investments, guys, we're looking for investments where there are no beneficiaries. In other words, where the investment is paying into the estate. So you can consider stuff like unit trust, for example, that goes into this particular section, or any endowment where the estate has been nominated as the executor. You will need to add the value in here as well. Vehicles, what we're looking for is a combined value, gross value of the vehicles in the estate. So let's call it that Mr. Joe Green has 2 vehicles, and both those vehicles are the valued 1 million. So remember, it's the gross value, and we're not looking for the net value of the figure that goes into this executable assets. Business interests. So let's say that Mr. Joe Green has a business interest to the value of 2 million rand. Okay. Guys, just bear in mind that just another important point, when you are looking at the executable assets, bear in mind where a client is married in community of property, because if that's the scenario, then you actually need to split the assets when filling in these blocks. Okay. Personal assets. So what we're looking for here is any so household assets, any special artwork that the client may have, jewelry, that sort of those sort of things. So let's say that Mr. Joe Green has a value of R1 million in terms of personal assets. And a very important point right here at the bottom, or a tab at the right at the bottom, is that it asks there insurance policies payable into the estate, excluding all Discovery Live policies. Now, guys, remember what we're trying to achieve in this side of the calculation is to determine whether the client currently, what's the value of his executable estate. What we have done, or what Harry has done, is quite great, because he's negotiated with ABSA in order to provide that all Discovery Live policies being paid into the estate will be excluded for any executors fees. Guys, that is a massive saving for clients. Okay, so that's 4.02%. That's your normal rate of executives fees, inclusive of VAT, and that's a massive saving for the client. So if it's a Discovery Life policy, you do not include it into this block. If it is any other policy with a beneficiary, once again, it doesn't come into the estate, so there's no executives fees on it. So again, we're only looking for policies which is not Discovery, where there's no beneficiaries and is paying into the estate. So for example, if the client had a momentum policy that was paying into the estate, that figure would need to be included in this block here. So for the purposes of this training, guys, let's just say that Mr. Joe Green has a 2 million rand life cover that's paying into the estate, so we're not going to include it in here. As you can see, that it gives you a total executable estate of 10 million rand. So what is done now, what this clever system has done is that it's put the recommended fee indemnity benefit asset cap into the 10 million rand bracket. Now, what it requires from us on the right-hand side is to determine what values are going into the trust for the clients. So remember, the DEP does cover up to 4 trusts. Okay, so we cover the trust administration fees up to 4 trusts for a period of 10 years each. Guys, we are not dictating to the client or yourself that you should utilize all 4 trusts. It is upon the discretion of the client. So if he wants to use 1 trust, for example, for both his minor children, or if he wants to create 2 separate trusts for both his minor children, that's perfectly fine. Just bear in mind that we will cover the trust administration fees for a period of 10 years each. Okay. So what you need to do in here in this particular block is that you need to place in here, let's say that Mr. Joe Green has 2 minor children and he just wants 1 trust for both of them. So what you need to do is that you need to include the executable or total executable estate here on the left bottom. You need to include that amount into the trust. So here we go. We've got a 10 million rand policy that's going into the trust for, sorry, it's not a policy, excuse me. We've got a 10 million rand asset base that's going into the trust for the benefit of the 2 minor children. But guys, remember we said that there's a 2 million rand Discovery Life policy that's paying into the estate. You would need to include that Discovery Life policy into the trust values, because it is going to go into the trust for both those children. Now, like I said, again, if you look at the bottom, it gives you the recommended fee indemnity and benefit asset cap is 10 million rand. If I go and include that 2 million rand life cover, if I go and include that 2 million rand life cover, it brings the amounts the value that's going into the testamentary trust to a value of 12 million rand. Now you could see that the indemnity benefit asset cap now takes it into the 20 million rand bracket. So basically what we need to do is we need to be aware of the value that's going into the trust so we can place that client into the appropriate benefit asset cap so that we make sure that we cover all the fees for those trust administration. Guys, just bear in mind, remember what Harry said, if the client doesn't fall into the right benefit asset cap, remember we will then apply a pro rata, we will provide a pro rata indemnification on the fees. Okay. If you click on the apply a recommended amount, what it then does, it takes you back into the main screen, which then gives you the benefits that come in this particular asset class. So as you can see here, it's saying there that the fee indemnity benefit asset cap is 20 million rand. There's a recommended fee. Okay, so that's the same amount. And then the number of properties covered under this benefit asset cap is 2 properties. So what we're saying is that we'll cover all the fees, the executives fees for this client for a 20 million rand estate. We'll cover all the testamentary trust fees for the client for a period of 10 years for up to 4 trusts. And we'll also cover 2 properties for conveyancing fees under the 20 million rand benefit asset cap. Then, like Harry just explained as well, there's 2 other nice benefits that do come with this policy. It's something called a auto liquidity benefit. This is a lump sum, so 40,000 rand, because the client falls into the 20 million asset cap, there's a 40,000 rand lump sum which is paid out within 48 hours to the client after Discovery has received all the claim forms. And then the client will also receive something called a contribution protected benefit of 8,000 rand per month, which is paid for a period of 6 months. That total premium will bring it to 178.25 rand. Guys, this is extremely reasonable fee. You're looking at a 42-year-old male who's a smoker. So this is basically what the premium that you're looking at. Then remember, we spoke about the estate planning benefit. This is an optional benefit that comes with this policy. What this benefit was created for was to create any further costs in terms of tax implications in the client's estate in regards to estate duty or CGT. Now you have a maximum of R1 million, which you can add onto this policy with the DEP. Guys, remember this benefit is also still available with the life cover as well. But if you just want to add it to the DEP, then you have a maximum of R1 million. With the normal, if you're adding it to the normal life cover, you don't have a threshold in terms of what amount you can add in there as well. So you can see here that it gives you a monthly premium of R66.35. And if you add both these amounts up, it'll give you a total of R244.60, which is then applicable on this premiums for both these benefits. Okay, so this is what your monthly premium will look like. If you can then go further, you can go into view quote. I just need to stop my screen for 1 second. Just give it a second, guys, where the quote appears. There we go. Okay, so if you go into view quote, guys, obviously in the first page then describes to you that there is a 100% discount on the wool storage fee for the first year. That's in terms of our special offers currently. And then once again, on the second page, it takes you through each of the benefits which is available to the client. Guys, just remember on the estate planning benefits, how it does work is that if you got Mr. Joe Green who takes out this policy, remember this policy will pay out only on the last survivor. So in other words, when Mr. Joe Green's spouse or partner passes away, this policy will then pay out, but the premiums will stop on Mr. Joe Green's death, who is the policyholder. Okay. And then if you go into the third page, guys, you could see there, like Harry explained in his presentation, that this policy is a life policy. So it does grow by CPI and it is an age-rated policy. On the fifth page, I like it quite a bit because what it does is that it shows you, let me just make this a bit bigger for you guys. So what it does is that it does show you the premium projections over the next couple of years for the client. And like Harry explained, once again, there's also, there are annual contribution increases, but there'll also be annual benefit increases. So for example, you could see that the client in year 2027, you'll be paying a 450 Rand for this policy, but it then falls into the 26 million Rand bracket, or we'll cover the executive's fees for a 26 million Rand estate. His liquidity benefit then increases to 53,000 Rand, which is a lump sum paid out within 48 hours. And then you have the contribution protector, which then pays out a 10,700 Rand benefit for a period of 6 months. So if you go into the sixth page, guys, like I said, again, the benefits that come with each asset cap is set. So you can't change the benefit. So in other words, because the client falls into the 20 million asset cap, remember we're covering up to 2 properties for the conveyancing fees. If he falls into the 100 million Rand asset cap, it will then cover 3 properties for the conveyancing fees. So I get a lot of questions asked as, what do we do if the client falls into the 60 million Rand asset cap, but we have 2 properties? Then what you can do is that, remember, guys, you still have that solution via a life cover. I would assume that you do proper financial planning with the client and make sure that his liquidity needs are met on his death as well. Guys, just, and then you get the asset cap, sorry about that. Then you have your liquidity benefit. And like I said, again, depending on the asset cap that the client falls into, there's a set amount of liquidity benefit which is paid out. So it starts off at 10,000 Rand, it goes up to a maximum of 50,000 Rand. The client is more than welcome to, once again, just to bear in mind that there are increases. So there are annual increases, but just like I showed you on page 5, there will definitely be benefit increases as well. And then your contribution protector obviously starts off at 2,000 Rand and it goes up to a value of 10,000 Rand per month, which is paid out. Guys, and then this on the very last page, I don't think this is very important to you. Just remember, this is a life product. So what it means that you do qualify for commission in terms of the life. So there is a 3.25% advisory fee that is paid out. The commission is, for this particular client, will be 197.50 Rand on a monthly basis, but bear in mind that we do pay commission annually in advance. So your first year commission will be 197 Rand and 50 cents times 12, and your second year commission will be a 65 Rand and 84 cents times 12 as well. Okay. Guys, if you go back to if I take you back to the main quoting screen, and just one last piece of advice I want to share with you is that if the client feels that he wants to go into a higher asset cap or into a lower asset cap, he's more than welcome to choose that option. So if you click on that down arrow, once again, it does allow you to then choose the asset cap that the client wants to go into. Just also just remember that, you know, in terms of underwriting, guys, from 2.5 million Rand up to 40 million Rand, there is no medical underwriting requirements. Okay, so no blood tests. There's only 14 medical questions that the client needs to answer. And if he falls into the 60 or 100 million Rand asset cap, there's normal medical underwriting that needs to take place. And then just one final piece of advice, final part of my presentation is that if you go into the FAST app, and this is what I was explaining to you guys before, even though it's a 26 and 30 page application, if your client is recorded on your smart device already, and if you click on the FAST app, what it does for you is that it will then transfer that information into the FAST app. Okay, so you then have the option of actually just going into each tab and making sure that you have completed all the information for the client. So I just quickly want to show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is what it basically looks like, guys. So you have now these different tabs that you need to complete, and you need to go into each tab and make sure that you complete all the information on the tab. You will see that the will services, what it does is that it does give you the option of whether you want to make use of the will drafting call center. Guys, once again, this is not a situation of you then forwarding a lead onto ABSA for them to call the client. What it's asking you here is that whether you would like to make contact with the ABSA call center. What you then get to do is that you would then get to speak to a consultant over the phone, who will then assist you with the drafting of the will, and the will is then emailed to you within 30 minutes. Okay, if you don't want to use that process, then you need to complete the rest of these tabs. And then once you upload this information onto SMAD, what we do for you in the background is that we will split the application for you, send the DEP to the Life Department for underwriting, and then we'll send the will's instructions over to ABSA to get that will drafted for you as well. Okay. That is it for my presentation. I know I'm out of time. I'm actually 4 minutes over. Wouter, I'm not too sure if there's any questions that need to be asked or answered. Sorry.
Alan, I don't see any questions that popped up. I think it was comprehensive. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We will get questions from the field, Harry. Dylan, if you wouldn't mind sharing your contact details, I've got your email address, and then we'll pop it through to you.
100%, Wouter.
Sorry, I just want to jump in. Dylan, you made a very good point, which I actually forgot. I'm glad you raised it, Dylan. I forgot to tell you about the exact fee sharing, which is a very important part of the arrangement, because it means your FAs can build up a very nice book that when the clients die, ABSA will give them a fixed sharing of the executives' fees that ABSA are charging. And it just means, Wouter, I know you're keen to get involved in the space yourself, and you've got some people that do it, but it's so much easier to have ABSA do it, to have ABSA take the hassle of COVID and the government printer breaking down, and you just get a sharing of the executive fees anyway. You know, that's the thing. And I must be honest, Wouter, I mean, when we linked with ABSA, I had the choice. I mean, Discovery had this choice. Do we start our own in-house trust company and do it all in-house, or do we use ABSA? And I just said from the beginning, let's give it to ABSA. Let them do all the legwork. And we don't have people going into the master's office every week in Polokwane and in Pretoria and trying to find lost files. And, you know, in Cape Town, the roof blew off the master's office and the files blew away, and it rained in and damaged files. I mean, I don't want that to be my problem. I don't want to have to go find files in the master's office. I can tell you, Wouter, I did law articles. I was going to the master's offices every couple of weeks to find files. It was terrible, mind-destroying work. Let ABSA do all of that. And, you know, they charge for it. So I know, Wouter, you've got your own business ideas, and that's your prerogative. But just think about it. This is a nice, easy way. You sell the DEP, get the commission, or you can get Delon's team to go do it for them from July. They'll get 80% of the commission. Give the estate to ABSA. ABSA will have the headache. Your advisors get a big chunk of the executive's fees anyway. You know, it's like a nice end-to-end business for you without having the schlep. And I don't underestimate, I'm not being negative, but don't underestimate the admin challenges of getting his estate wound up with the master. It's not easy at all. And as I say, APSA go there every week. They've got a guy that knows all the chief masters and gets in there. You know, it's just a big help.
Absolutely. Aggie, thank you very much. And Dylan, thanks for your time on a Thursday afternoon. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Walter.
That logged in.
Philip, sorry, Walter. Philip's made a point and he's right. Philip says the new audit commission. He's right. I mean, you're not looking after clients at your level based on commission. I'm just obviously trying to show you that there is commission and there is executive fee sharing. But I mean, we look after a client comprehensively, you know the rewards you get. And Philip, right. I mean, none of you on this group are what I call SMOSA. You guys have all been around a long time. Walter's been around longer than me. I could just say, Walter, one feather in your cap. You know, when I did my first training session for you at Discovery, remember I went to the board and I drew pictures. And Walter said to me, why don't you use slides and put pictures in your slides? And I've done that ever since. It's thanks to you. You notice all my slides have got pictures and organograms and triangles, and that's, you taught me that. So your MBA went to good use in training me how to use slides.
Awesome.
Okay, but Philip makes a very valid point, right? I mean, I fully take what Philip says on board. We're not trying to make anyone a policy spouse, but while you're doing the business, I mean, you want your guys to get money. It's just a corollary.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Dylan. Nice meeting you, and thanks for your time.
And Walter, we'll take the chat offline more when we go into a bit more depth.
Absolutely. I'll set that up. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
Guys.
Great chatting to all of you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Go well.